Welcome to Holy Grit Leadership That Lasts, the podcast for leaders who are done with fluff and hungry for depth. Hey, listen, if you're looking for more than just quick wins and shallow strategies in leadership, you're in the right place. We're talking bold, ethical, and effective leadership fueled by timeless truth from scriptures and built to withstand the pressure of the real world. Okay, now listen. Whether you're leading a church, running a business, managing a team, or just trying to hold your life together on Monday morning, Holy Grit Leadership is here to help you lead with courage, clarity, and conviction. Listen, this isn't your grandma's Bible study. Unless she was a total boss, let's dig in, let's lead well, let's build some leadership that lasts. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I love that song. It's like, welcome back. Welcome back.
What song is that?
I don't know. I was just saying things.
I've never heard that song.
Yeah, well, and it's because you're not cool enough.
People
So-
tune out. Oh, man.
Well, welcome to Holy Grit Leadership That Lasts. I am your host, Gene, and this is my co-host, Matt. Remember, I am the awesome, more better-looking, handsome superintendent of a local school here in Nebraska, and Matt is a amazing, big-time, mega local pastor here. And we are ready to deliver episode 6 today, Matt.
That's crazy. That's good. I like it. I'm enjoying it.
Me too. This has been amazing for my own just kind of leadership development. And speaking of development, our episode 6 today is all about walking with the disciples, how to develop a healthy culture.
Okay. This honestly is one of those episodes that I think will really help a lot of teams. At New Hope, our goal is like, we want a culture that is life-giving and full of hope. And there are cultures that either, that will do the opposite of that. So you have, the good, the bad, and we want to be there where we're helping each other and it's life-giving and not sucking the life out of you.
Yes. The old workforce life sucks, doesn't it, sometimes? Yeah. And that's a big aspect of what this episode is all about, is how do you develop a healthy culture, whether it's within your classroom or in your hallway or in your business or at home. What are some of the principles that that Jesus used when he was walking with his disciples that helped develop this amazing passion to continue to seek Christ, to continue to seek just a better way of doing things in the workplace? And so I've got some questions that I'd like to kind of hit on. But one thing before I get started today is I want us to think about this. Culture isn't just built in a day. It's built every day by what we tolerate, by what we celebrate, and by what we replicate.
Yeah.
And everyone likes to think of culture as this just nice finance line that keeps going up and up and up and up and up, and it just gets better and better and better. But in reality, it's the stock market. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. And hopefully over time, it continues to get better. Culture is a messy thing.
It is.
It is something that you have to be intentional with. It's something that you have to understand and really make an effort every single day to improve and get better.
Yes.
And so my first question to you is just when have you seen culture unintentionally go sideways, even with good intentions?
Right. Here's when a culture becomes all about production and not about relationship. I think production is necessary for you to obviously have a successful team. That's certainly important, but I've seen culture go sideways when that becomes the only thing. And I think we have to be mindful of that. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But also when leaders avoid problems rather than dealing with problems, it's easy to kind of like, none of us like those hard conversations, like confrontations. And also when teams are left visionless, like, you don't know where you're going. So you have a whole team, but none of them are going in the same direction. They're all going in different directions. And that creates tension because, I have this idea and it's better than this idea. Well, the leader has to cast the vision and say, we're going in this direction and we're going there together. Here's how we're going to get and
Yes.
bringing them together. So those three are the biggies for me. And that first one with the production, it's a very dangerous thing. Even like, let's say an NFL team.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And if the goal is just winning, where's the why? Right. We can all win and we can make a lot of money, but there's got to be there's the real why we're doing what we're doing. And everybody has a why, but the team that you're with, you have to say, okay, here's our collective why.
Right. Like the Raiders, Al Davis just said, win, baby. Al Davis said, win, baby, win. But, the Raiders haven't really won that much
No.
at all. So you might be onto something a little bit to it's not all about winning. And I think culture is something that we need to identify and explain.
Yeah.
Because if you believe that culture is about everyone just getting along every single day, everyone smiling and being nice every single day, that's not culture.
No.
That is watching a kid's child television show where you're on a cloud full of ponies and rainbows. What we're talking about is a battlefield.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is grit, grind, and worship. And it's something that is hard and it's messy and it's amazingly beautiful all at the same time.
Yeah.
And that is what we're talking about culture is. And so one of the first points I want to bring up today about how do you develop a healthy culture, the very first thing you do is you Picasso that thing. I'm going to call it the Picasso way. You paint the picture of what a healthy culture is going to look like.
Yeah.
So like you said, you have to understand the why. So what's the New Hope culture? What do you want people to feel like? What do you want it to be like? You tell me.
So we have a word that runs throughout our church DNA, and it's in our name. It's in our vision statement. It's in our mission statement, and that word is hope. So the name of our church is New Hope.
Okay.
Our vision slogan is advancing hope, one soul at a time. At the end of our mission statement, we talk about advancing the gospel, and so that we give hope to others, the true hope in Christ. So I think for us, when you talk about culture, we want a culture that is bathed in hope.
Yeah.
When we have people come through the doors of our church, we want them to feel loved and welcome. And we want them to leave there every Sunday with hope. And when our staff comes to staff meeting, when we work together, that word is kind of woven again into our DNA that we're about hope. And that includes with each other on a day-to-day basis, that we are speaking life to one another, that we're speaking hope. So that is like if you're painting a Picasso picture.
Yes.
For us, it says hope, and it looks like hope, and it feels like hope, and it sounds like hope. Every part of our culture has to be that. And so I think our staff gets that, and our leadership team gets that. And so we have to, give that. We have to be, hope dealers, not dope dealers.
Yes. So, hope dealers, not dope dealers. Hey, take some of this hope, not dope.
Yeah.
I really, really appreciate you saying that, because culture precedes strategy. You guys could have the best intentions in the world, but if you don't have, in your case, hope, you don't have the why, you don't have the purpose, you don't have the passion, well, that best strategy just goes on deaf ears. Right. And so, part of developing a healthy culture is modeling it yourself. I always hear people say you have to earn respect to get respect. And that really bugs me and gets under my skin, because I feel the opposite. I feel like you have to model respect for people to learn respect.
Yeah.
And as leaders, you have to model exactly the Picasso painting of what you want your culture to be like, Matt. And that's something that I have taken into my daily leadership practices. If I am looking at my leader, what would I want them to do in this situation to make me feel hopeful, to make me feel excited, to make me feel like what I'm doing matters.
Right. So here's the problem, like you were talking about with culture. A lot of people paint that picture and they present that picture, but that's not what that picture looks like when you turn around and show it to people. there's unhealth in there. The paint is, drying too fast. The paint isn't the color that it's supposed to be because we're simply putting an idea out there, but we're not following through. And so I think we'll get to that, but I think it's so important not to just talk about hope, but to actually live out hope.
To walk with it every single day. Jesus walked with his disciples, right?
Yeah.
He was right there with them. He was showing them. He was out all day and night healing the sick. And he was showing them what it meant to be a follower of Christ and how to carry a cross, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yep.
And so, speaking of Jesus, what do you think was the most powerful kind of cultural norm Jesus modeled with the disciples?
Okay, so there were a lot of people that were starting to be attracted to Jesus, want to follow him. And at one point he turns to his crowd. This is in Luke chapter 9, verses 23 through 24. And he said to them all, whoever wants to be my disciple, so whoever wants to come onto my team and follow me, must deny themselves. Number one, Jesus modeled selflessness, and he said, if you want to be on my team, then you have to be a part of a culture that is selfless. And
I
so
love that.
the disciples, he also says later on, he said in Luke 9:57, he says that, foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. In other words, he's saying, are you willing? And this selflessness is lived out in homelessness. Like, are you willing to be a fox and not have a hole, or a bird and not have a den? And so he's challenging his disciples with actually living out the Picasso paint. Like, this is what it looks like. And he put it in very plain terms for them. Are you willing to be homeless for me? That's what selflessness looks like.
Wow. And that's an amazing picture. Because we talk about in my own family as like a dad and husband, and we say, hey, in this family, right? So that's identifying your DNA. And Jesus just drew a line in the sand and said, if you want to cross that line, this is what it's going to take.
Yeah.
And so when you want to develop a healthy culture, you got to draw the line in the sand and say, this is what it's going to take.
Yes.
Because if you do not draw that line in the sand, people don't know when they're either being successful in your culture or if they're being a detriment to the culture. And that's a big deal. And so,
so what are those cultural lines that you have on your teams, right? That we have. And so for me, it's really important to guard the gate. So that means anybody that's going to be on my team, here's the parameters for this team, staff. And if you can't abide by those, I mean, we're not interested. God bless you.
Yes.
Maybe you'll fit somewhere else. But we have some of those cultural lines, and it's okay to have those.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, then we can inadvertently let someone on the team who's going to disrupt the culture, and we'll talk about later. Toxicity.
And I can rattle off ours. So number one, very first thing we draw the line in the sand is, hey, you have to be positive here. You have to have fun here, because we work with kids, right? And if you can't have fun working with kids, you're not in the right place.
Yeah.
If you don't enjoy kids, you're not in the right place.
It's just a job.
Right. If you don't get excited every single day to see the people that are coming to you for their future, then this isn't for you. That's the first one for us. The second one for us is, hey, here we don't talk about kids these days. That's such a fun conversation, but we don't talk about this generation and their iPads, this generation. And of course, a lot of it's true, but we don't talk about it here.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to not have that conversation, a lot of it's not, here's what you have to do. A lot of it's, here's what you don't do. And, it's just such an amazing thing for our culture. And then last is, hey, we speak life into what we're doing. We speak life into the people we work with. That's called total collective efficacy, right? It's getting everyone on the same train, getting that train started, and getting everyone to go in one direction. And in order to do that, you have to speak life into the people you work with, into the custodian, into your leader into the person that's laterally right beside you. And when you truly believe that everyone is in it for the right reasons,
Yeah.
it's
Would you
electric.
talk about one of them? I know for you guys is the no meetings behind meetings. Is for us that would be gossip.
Yeah.
How does that flesh out? Talk about that one a little bit.
Yeah. So after we have a no meetings behind the meetings policy, it's not rocket science. So when we have a meeting, we look for people going into the same room after the meeting 3, 4 at a time and shutting the door. So we say don't do that. Leave your doors open so everyone understands that they're taking a stand on we're not going to talk about or disagree what just happened in that meeting, because we give everyone the platform to say, hey, I don't think this is right, or hey, I think we're going in the wrong direction. And when you give people the ability, that develops to the ability to disagree and have good discussions. And everyone always thinks a long, healthy discussion is a disagreement. It's not. It's challenging. It's being able to say what is the best possible pathway, and that is not always easily thought of.
Yeah,
it takes time. And so we do that. We say no meetings behind meetings because we don't.
So how do you identify a person that may be prone to that? Like, it's a hard thing to do in a hiring process, but
so the people that are very prone, and I would actually say it's not a hard thing. Ask them about their prior job. Ask them about the people that they worked with in their history and see what they say. Are they speaking life into the place that they chose to work at for a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years? Some red flags are the ones that are there 1 year, and they leave and they haven't held a consistent position for a long time. That's a big red flag. Any red flags for you?
Yeah. So we, as a church, obviously you're trying to hire somebody who's a born again Christian. That's a number one on our staff. But beyond that, when you look at people, I call churches that they've been at in the past, just like you would any other job. And I try to call churches that they don't know I'm going to call, even though they put ones on the reference. I will call a church that I knew they were at, and because I want to get as much information as I can, because you're bringing a person into your family, essentially. It's like somebody who's going to be kind of in your inner circle, and it's important that they're on the same page. And so for me, when you're thinking about bringing someone on, it has to be very well vetted. Like, you can't make too many phone calls, in my opinion. You have a job to do, and it's to protect the culture on your staff and ultimately, or the entire church, because that person will not only work with your staff but with volunteers. And so I've had a couple situations where I have had to hire other pastoral staff, and that one really it matters. It's really important. And so I made a lot of phone calls. A guy that I thought maybe would be good, and I found out was very dogmatic on a particular area of theology. And sure, you want people to be certain of their theology. They have to line up with the doctrinal statement of our church. But in particular areas, sometimes we take the minors and make them majors. Well, this was something that had me very concerned.
Yes.
And so you just have to do your homework and make sure. And, everyone's going to have their best day on the interview, right? They're going to sound great.
And I think sometimes tone deaf leaders think that their culture is going well, but behind the scenes, it's a complete chaos. And so I've seen that happen where someone describes their organization or the people that they lead and say, man, I've got it good. It's going well. And then you talk to the people in their organization and they're like, Mister, get me out of here. So that's a big problem, is as leaders, you can't be tone deaf to your culture. You have to be able to be in tune. And part of that is culture grows like a garden, not a machine. So Jesus nurtured his disciples over time. And a healthy culture needs daily tending, watering relationships, pulling out the weeds of division, and planting seeds of trust. It's definitely organic, not mechanical. And that's something that you have to consistently do. That's what a healthy culture is. It's a plant, it's a tree. So whatever that analogy that you want to use, but you have to tend to it, and you have to tend to it often. Would you agree?
Yeah, it takes time to get to know your, family, your spouse.
Yeah.
you know them well because you're with them every day. And so you have to know your staff, know your people, because if you don't, you're going to miss some major things. One of the things that I'm very intentional about is, like, especially a new young staff member right now. I have a couple young men on my staff that I love this part, like discipling those young men and building them up. We meet once a week, we talk about the word, and then I give them each time to talk to me individually just about what's going on in their lives. And I think that's important because they, number one, then they know that, you care about more than their production. You care about their family.
Yes.
You care about their lives. That's watering the plant. And eventually that plant will grow up and yield fruit. And you pray that that fruit that you're planting or that you're growing will then reproduce. So you want them to grow into leaders.
And hopefully you're not yelling at a fig tree with no figs on it, right?
Yeah.
You're not like, there's a tree, I want it, just no fruit.
Well, that was a great illustration.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Jesus used, and the disciples didn't quite get it. But no.
Well, all right. So I got one for you then. How do you recover a culture that's been either silently shamed by fear or burnout, and where you're walking into a leadership position and everyone's walking on eggshells because that's just the culture that they think leadership has? And so how do you come and recover something like that?
Okay, well, I'm going to introduce a book. This is called The Emotionally Healthy Church. And it's really, really good on leadership. There's a prequel to it called The Emotionally Healthy Christianity. And
who's it by? Who's the author?
Okay, Peter
Scazzaro.
All right. Yeah.
Peter Scazzaro.
All right. And it says the starting point for change in any nation, church, or ministry has always been the leader. As the leaders go, so goes the church. But it's not enough for the leader to change. God wants to set the others free as well. But it begins with, number one, with the leader. And so that's true. As the leader goes, so goes the culture. And you see it, like when there's a change in leadership, and most often, you're talking about, let's say, college football right now. It's such a very fluid situation with coaches going here and there. But guess what? When the right coach comes into the program, it may be, Middle Tennessee State, but guess what? They may find themselves in the playoffs.
Yes.
Right. We've seen that happen.
It's what can happen when you have an amazing leader.
Yes. I think of, there's been some of these smaller schools like Northern Illinois, and they find themselves, or Boise State, they find themselves in the run of things because they have great coaches.
Yes.
And they don't have to be at Alabama, but that maybe even you have to be a better leader to take a team like that than you would at Alabama.
And I'm always amazed at people that are doing some amazing things in such a small organization, in such a small church. And it doesn't matter the size. I think always people think bigger is better, right?
Yeah.
And in some ways that might be true, but in most ways, if you can be dynamic and impactful and instill hope in what you do every single day, it's going to have a big, long-lasting impact.
I would say in all circumstances, it doesn't matter whether you're in a big church or a small church or a big school or a small school. If you're just doing your job and doing it to the best of your ability and you're being faithful, that's what God asks us. He gives us all different sizes of things, and he says, just be faithful. It's like he's on the side of this mountain, and the disciples come to him and they're like, hey, Jesus, we need to feed this crowd. And what does he say? He says, what do you have? And they're like, what do you mean we have? We have 5 loaves and 2 fish. All Jesus wants is for us to give him what we've got.
Yeah.
And he'll take it and he'll multiply it and he'll make it work. He'll make the miraculous happen. And so I think that's what we have to look at our positions as, like our talents and our gifts as leaders, is say, God, this is what I've got. I want to grow in this, but God, I'm going to give it to you. And I want you to do what you can do with it. And it's an amazing thing when we yield to God in that way and let him take control of even our leadership, wherever we're leading at. God will take it. He'll multiply it. He'll make it grow if we're doing it his way.
Well, and that kind of goes back to, okay, this is we recognize that there's some things wrong with our culture. and we're just going to address it right now. And we're going to draw the line in the sand. We're going to say, this is who we are. This is how we're going to get there. And that kind of goes back to, what do you got? That's the 5 loaves, 2 fish. Hey, here's the line in the sand. What do you got to bring over here?
Yeah.
And I love that illustration, because really the next question that I have jumps right into that, is just, what's the difference between unity and uniformity in a team culture?
Yeah. So in Acts chapter 4, there's the group of disciples really starting to grow and do life together. And it says that they were one in heart. And doesn't mean that they all rooted for the Huskers.
Right.
But
they should have.
What it did mean was that they all had the same mission in mind. They had the same goal in mind. It was to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and to grow in their relationship with him, just to glorify God. That was the mission. And, Jesus left them with that in Matthew 28:19. Therefore, go into all the world and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit. A very clear mission statement for every Christian.
Yes.
And so that's what they were doing. And they were one in heart and mind. And they were sharing with each other to help each other accomplish that mission. They were being selfless.
Yes.
They were selling land and bringing it to the apostles, saying, how can we use this to fulfill the mission? And so that's what a team looks like, right? That's what that looks like, to be unified, to have unity on your team, moving in the same direction. I can't remember what your question was. The difference between what?
Unity and uniformity, because sometimes we set that and someone's like, yeah, I'll just do that. And they're just kind of going through the motions, but it's not necessarily, I'm all in. And, I love it when we are really digging our nails into something, at the school system. One of it might be like rigor and challenging. We call it the Goldilocks principle in school. Not too hard, but not too boring. So we want education to be moderately challenging every single day.
Yeah.
And so when we do these things and we get teachers to say, gosh, I really hit that golden zone today, and they're excited and they want to share about, how they helped accomplish what we're all trying to accomplish, which is to provide a world-class education in this tiny little town. And again, it doesn't matter the size. And that's what we keep preaching to them, is saying, listen, it doesn't matter if you're in a town of 10 or 10,000. We can create and sustain these amazing learners, these confident, powerful learners, by doing what we do. And when everyone starts to really jump in on that and get excited about it, and they care, that's unity, right? Instead of, I got to put my objective on the board today because that's what we do. That's what they tell us to do. You hear the difference in that between unity and just uniform.
That's where the toxicity comes in that we'll be talking about next episode. If people are begrudgingly following the mission, they don't belong on your team.
No, kick them out.
Yeah,
absolutely. As cold as that sounds.
Yeah,
absolutely. Give them the boot.
Well, Judas is a great example of that. We'll talk about next episode.
So then, how do you discern between a cultural preference and a principle that should never be compromised? Because a lot of the times we say, okay, here's the end goal. There's some details on how to get there, but how we get there might be a little bit different all the time. So how can we decipher in a healthy culture, what is a preference versus a principle? That's a really hard question to think about. And so, like in Jesus's day, and one of the things I always try to remember, you had a lesson for us, is at one time there was this, the line of the Bible is women should remain silent in the church. And that was a cultural thing happening at that time, because there was women that were worshiping some idol. And am I right in saying
so
this?
you're referring to 1 Corinthians 14 at the very end of the chapter. It says women should not speak, they remain silent in the church. And then it's weird, because then earlier in the chapter Paul's like, okay, well, when you prophesy, women should remove cover, and so they're told to do that, but then they're told to be silent. So there was something specific going on there culturally that was the women were, many of the people coming out of idol worship were coming into the church, and in that idol worship they're worshiping this this idol Diana, and so the women were the priests, they were leading. God said, no, that's out of order, and the created order is, we don't need to get into all of that. But yeah, that was something that was going on. The women were taking over the services. They were being loud and disruptive, and Paul just is correcting that. So it wasn't a preference, it was a principle in that respect. But also we can take that even and twist it and say, well, women should never speak in the church, right?
Right, and that's where things kind of get so sideways in a healthy culture is, wait a second, you said we had to do it this way, and so I'm going to do that no matter what circumstance happens. And there's a gray area in a leadership to where you have to sometimes take things case by case, and sometimes it does break your systematic procedure and how you do things because it's just different.
It's dogmatic.
Yeah.
Can't be that way.
Yeah. And so sometimes in a healthy culture, guys, you have to be able to communicate through the preference versus principles. Yes, we want this to happen this way, but this is a little bit of a different scenario and a different understanding.
That's right.
And so as we kind of go through how to develop a healthy culture, I want to leave everyone with a couple of main takeaways. Is, again, we say this all the time, you don't need a title to create culture, you just need consistency. So if you're not the leader, but you still show up every day and you shine the light and you follow and you're all in and you're bought into the mission, if you're an aspiring leader, that's what's going to propel you there the best. I always get staff members say, how can I become a principal someday? What's going to make me into maybe to be a superintendent someday? And I always tell them, be extremely good at what you're doing now. And that's how you develop that healthy culture, is to have those honest conversations with people. And then a healthy culture isn't just built on control, it's built on connection. And so having your hand in on every single decision, every single way someone does something isn't necessarily healthy.
That's an ugly culture.
Yeah.
Because that becomes a top-down dominance, dictatorial culture that no one is healthy in. It becomes very unhealthy. And we have that going on today a lot in the church, like not in our church, praise God. But there's this kind of, it's an extreme Pentecostal wing. A lot of people call it NAR, New Apostolic Reformation, but the pastor has all the power and everyone else just has to listen to what he's saying. That is unhealthy. If you're in a church like that, please get out.
Wouldn't or at least be communicative about it and say, hey, we have a problem. So we produce who we are, not what we say. So remember, when you want others to follow the vision, to fall in line with what you're doing, and to really buy in, they're just going to follow your actions every single day as a leader. So as we wrap up and finish up episode 6, how to develop a healthy culture, I want us all to remember this. Remember, culture grows like a garden, not a machine. So when Jesus nurtured his disciples over time, a healthy culture needs tending. Water your relationships, pull out the weeds of division and anger and negativity, and plant seeds of trust and hope. And remember, it's organic, not mechanical. Any parting advice and wisdom before we
I think
lead
a
out
healthy
today?
culture is something that we all desire, because we have enough stress in this world. And if we have healthy culture in our work environment, how much better will things go at home? Right? How much better will things go in your personal life? And I think it's what God desires for us, and it's what the enemy hates. So he will sow seeds of discord all the time, and division and doubt. We have to battle him on that. Say, no, in Jesus' name, I'm going to create a culture here that's Christ-like, that's filled with hope. And that's what we're called to as Christians, is to bring Jesus into every environment we're in, and to bring that culture of health and hope. And it's an amazing thing. People want to be a part of that.
And let's say you're in a culture, Matt, that you can't leave your job. I need to take care of my family. I need to take care of my family, and I have a job, and I put food on the table. But what you can do, and this is something that I've seen, some people that I know that actually live with me work at Walmart, right? And he tells me he's an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid, and he said, hey, man, everyone hates this job at Walmart, but I don't. And I consider it, I'm just grateful that I have a job. So I go out every day and I smile. I bring people their groceries. When it's my turn to take care of the aisle, I'm like skipping and like saying hello. And I'm choosing that. And now, since I've been at this for months, more and more people are starting to want to work next to me. More and more people are starting to have more of a positive outlook on life. So let's say you're involved in this not a healthy culture. You can be the exception to the rule.
You can be the change that you want to see.
Absolutely.
And so that's one of the things that happened to Sandy and I early on. We were thinking about leaving a cultural environment in a church setting that we were struggling with. We prayed about it. We asked the Lord, and the Lord said, "Stay and be the change that I want to see." And so we have to be the change. Yeah, it's like your guy you're talking about.
Yeah,
being the change, like that's contagious. And guess what? That's going to yield great fruit in his life. Yeah.
And so that's it for today, episode 6, guys. Do all the likes and subscribes and the heart buttons and the thumbs up that you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Review all 5 stars and tell us how handsome we are. Welcome to Holy Grit Leadership That Lasts. Hey, thanks for listening to our podcast today. If you would like, please subscribe, rate, review, give us all the butterflies you can. We appreciate you. Thank you, and God bless.